beautiful people, and welcome back to my channel. In today's video I want to talk about being a polyglot in 2026. So starting 2026 I was just learning German as my third language, and now that we're in August I have learned German and French until B1, and Spanish I've just started, and also a tiny bit of Dutch because I'm doing a trip. So that's like a lot of languages, but I want to talk about what I think is helpful in becoming polyglot, if that's also like a personal goal of yours. So I think there are 4 important things when it comes to like becoming a polyglot. The first and most important thing in my opinion is motivation, and I think just wanting to be a polyglot is definitely a great goal. It's just like wanting to be a professional athlete, which, you know, if you practice and you just want to do professional athleticism because you want to say that you do professional athleticism, that's completely fine. In my opinion, that's amazing. But I think a lot of people struggle with consistency when it comes to things like sports or languages or music, things that really require you to be consistent and do it every day for a considerable amount of time. And this is why I want to talk about motivation. So in my opinion, any motivation is valid motivation as long as it's valid for you. But always the things that interest you or serve you a purpose, in my opinion, have a higher priority. So for me, I have like 2 sections of the languages that I think I will learn. Pillar is those things that I find interesting personally. For example, French, I learned it because I thought it would be interesting to learn French. But German I learned because I came to Germany to study. Dutch is a bit of both. I always want to see how it works, but I'm learning it because I'm going on a trip. So obviously it can be a mixture of both, but in general, at least having one of them I think is really helpful. But the idea in the motivation, for me at least, is that if you have to force the motivation, then you don't have the motivation. Because I don't think motivation is something that should be forced. A lot of people talk about discipline and stuff like that. In my personal opinion, for me at least, if I have to do something every day and I have to remember that I need to do something, I'm not gonna do it. If you also have that problem, what I can suggest is incorporating the language in your daily life. So you don't really need to learn grammar and vocabulary every single day, all days that like since the beginning of your language journey, especially if you're not learning it in a short amount of time. So for example, me, I'm always on a rush and I'm always late. So like if I want to be able to speak at least a bit of Dutch in 2 days, then I need to learn the grammar, right? And I need to focus on that. But generally speaking, if that's not your goal and speed doesn't matter to you, then you don't really need to learn grammar or vocabulary every single day. See what's fun for you and use your fun time or your dead time, so to say, in your target language. So I'm a huge doom scroller and I just scroll into oblivion a lot of times, and also I watch a lot of videos on YouTube, on Instagram, on TikTok. I'm just always consistently changing platforms, doing the same thing. So what helps me personally is that I do it in my target language. And because like scrolling isn't the hardest thing on the planet, you don't really need to even know. A lot of times you're just passively watching the videos. I think doing them in your target language can really be helpful. Another thing is to put as much of your life as possible in that language. So this is like your devices should be in your target language. If you have 2 or more target languages, which I am struggling with right now, I suggest pick a device for a language. So one of my laptops is in Spanish, one of them is in German, and like I'm going to turn my phone into Dutch because for this couple days that I'm gonna be in Netherlands. But the point is, change it to your target language, and this kind of forces you also indirectly to learn some vocabulary. Another thing that I think is worth mentioning is that if you really want to become a polyglot, the best thing you can do is to learn another language. And you don't become a polyglot before you become a trilingual person, right? A lot of people who grew up speaking a language other than English tend to learn English at school or at least online until some levels. In my personal opinion, the way that you learn your other languages after the ones that you grew up with is different. So as an adult, and I started learning German when I was 19, when I came to Germany, and that was a very different process than like learning English, which I did from when I was 6 or 7 years old. Learning a new language, I think, is very important to also pay attention to the age that you have. I think it's definitely possible for adults to also master languages. I don't think something magical happens in your childhood, maybe in the early development stages, but other than that, it's just that when you're younger, you have more time and you don't hurry for the results. And so when you're an adult, you feel like you never have time, and therefore you are rushed to get the answers, and then you don't get them, and then you get frustrated. But it's completely possible to also learn and master a language in an advanced level. Another thing that I want to talk about is how good foundations really can help you. The majority of languages, actually until like the B levels, the intermediate levels, if you have a good enough structure of your grammar, chances are you're going to have like a really easy time understanding media that is not too advanced in a target language of your choice. Another tip that I have that looks like the opposite of what I actually do is that I don't rush learning. Now, let me explain. I hurry and I learn structurally because that's what works for me, and I need to see results fast or I get really discouraged with my process. But when I'm waiting for my fast results, I don't rush it. If my Spanish is really bad for a month, that's fine. I know that after 2 months I'm going to pick it up. What I learned is that language learning has like an exponential curve kind of thing. In the beginning, you don't really see a lot of improvement. But then at some point in like your B1 plus, you see a huge improvement. And then you don't see much improvement in your B2. And after you are comfortable with C1, then you see another huge improvement. So there are two stages of really big noticeable change, which are at B1 plus and at C1 and C1 plus. So I wouldn't expect myself to speak really easily in Spanish or Dutch when I'm A1 or A2. And if I don't understand, I just enjoy not understanding. And I talked about this quite a lot. If you want to be a polyglot, you will be a beginner and really bad at it multiple times. So if you're afraid of making mistakes, I don't think anyone is actually afraid of making mistakes. People are afraid that other people are going to make fun of them, or they're afraid of never actually learning. They're not really afraid of the mistake, they're afraid of this never improving. And these are a lot of negative things that your brain will be constantly telling you, especially if you struggle with like insecurities. This would be worse. The way I personally deal with that, because I'm also someone who struggles with that, for me, getting degrees and certificates from actual recognized institutions of those languages is a safe way to say that I'm actually in that level. If those people who are usually native speakers and also teachers and also examiners think that I am this level, then I am this level, you know, and it helps me to really ground myself. If you struggle with self-doubt, that I definitely recommend, and you can actually put your abilities to test. And if you don't make it, there is no one judging you. Sometimes the negativity and the procrastination is just coming from the fear, but the fear is based on nothing. Also, I have another thing. Learning multiple hours every single day is not necessary. I'm sorry. People will tell you that 1 hour every day is better than 7 hours one day and then nothing in the next days. I agree with that. If you can be consistent, that's amazing. But I can't be consistent. I'm never consistent. So for me, what works is 3 months, I'm at the top. 4 months, I'm nothing. Then again, then nothing. And so that's how I live my life. And I make peace with it. And in that situation, I've learned so many languages. So even if your way of learning and even if your way of your own character is not really conventional or what's taught, I still don't think that matters. As long as you know what works for you and what doesn't, and you keep your motivation and your positive feeling, everything is gonna turn out way better than you imagined. So thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this video. See you later. Bye bye.